Hey guys, Tiffany Ophelia Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. As you can see, we have Melissa, my loctician. I'm getting my hair retightened. So this is going to be another installation in the Loctician Speaks series. In this particular video, we're going to talk a little bit about dyeing your sister locks, about my experience with having done so, Melissa's experience, as well as some tips and some recommendations that she can give anybody out there who is considering dyeing their locks, just switch up the look. And even if you're not considering dyeing your locks at this time, maybe one day you will. So if that video sounds interesting and useful, make sure you continue to watch.
Motherhood with medals on her chest. She's proven that greatness knows no rest, representing the countries with pride she stands.
So this is not necessarily going to be a full comprehensive step-by-step guide on how to dye your sister locks, because Melissa's going to kind of tell a little bit about her opinion on it, but essentially she doesn't dye locks. She's not a cosmetologist, and she's going to pretty much tell anybody who's looking to do it to go to a professional who specializes in doing so. Right, Melissa?
Right.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
It's one of those things where people just assume because you have locks that you are kind of immune to a lot of the negative things like breakage or, achieving the wrong color or your hair's integrity decreasing because you have locks. And that is not necessarily the case, especially when you have sister locks.
So if you're wanting to start your journey with sister locks and you're a person who dyes your hair, then you're going to want to dye your hair before you get your installation, because you're going to probably have to wait a year or two before you can go and dye it again.
Yes. And that is such sound advice.
Mm-hmm.
And take it from somebody who did not follow that advice. I'll tell you exactly what happened. So again, I did my own thing. When I first got my hair established, when they are those immature baby locks, I said, whatever, I want my hair to be blonde. I'm going to go and dye them. So I went to a colorist. So she was somebody who is a certified cosmetologist, and she was good at coloring, and she colored my hair, but then most of my locks fell out. Around the perimeter, my locks came completely out because they weren't mature enough to withstand the chemicals. And it wasn't just your typical, I'm covering up some grays. It was like she lifted, she bleached, and then she added the color. So it was a very extensive dye process. And boy, my poor loctician in Michigan, she was pissed because she specifically told me not to do that. So then the next appointment was super long, and she had to then go and correct
all that mistake.
Because
so not only that, and then to me, listening to you say that makes me say that if you're going to go and find someone to actually color your hair, make sure that they understand locks. Because either one, she didn't understand locks, or two, she didn't care and just wanted your money.
Right. She didn't understand locks. She definitely did not have any experience in the lock world. So that's probably a useful learning experience for her as well.
Because our locks are delicate. They're small. They're tiny. And so you don't want to, like you said, destroy those curl patterns or have it being real brittle because you didn't put in the proper moisture to maintain. All of that's necessary and important.
So kind of piggybacking off of what Melissa said, you have to understand that sister lock, the structure of the actual locks can make dyeing your locks very tricky. So they are micro-sized, obviously, right? So, and it's a tightly woven pattern of interlocking, right? So that makes our hair, like she mentioned, more delicate compared to our traditional locked sisters or counterparts. So whereas with traditional locks, they might be a little bit more durable. You might be able to just do your own color job at home and they can withstand that. But with sister locks, you're not going to be able to get away with that. If you don't know what you're doing, yes, your locks can in fact fall out. They can come undone. Dryness, breakage, slippage, all of the above. And when you don't do it properly, you can also have that color unevenness and patchiness. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. The timing really does matter. Like she said, you want to wait till they're mature. And you said, Melissa, that's usually about a year to 2 years.
About a year to 2 years. And your loctician will let you know.
Yeah.
They'll let you know when they've become mature.
So Melissa and I have talked about it so much in previous videos about how this is an investment. This is a lifestyle. It's more than just a hairstyle. So if you're going to spend all of this time, effort, and money to get your locks where you want them to go, respect the process and just don't dye them too soon. We're not saying that you can't dye your hair. I have dyed my hair. In fact, if you look closely, some of my ends still have that brown hue because that is the blonde hair that I talked about that I did back in 2018. That is now kind of peeking through over the black that I dyed it back in 2022 or 2021, whenever I dyed it. So I say all that to say, it's not that you can't dye your hair. It's just that timing is of the essence. So if you are somebody who knows they like color and you haven't gotten your sister locks done yet, do the dye before you get your establishment. And just be prepared that you're going to have to wait before you dye it again.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So when you have that new growth, if you somebody who hates having that two-tone, and if it's a very stark contrast, that might be bothersome to you. So that is something to keep in mind.
Right. But what you can do for that is use a rinse, because then you're not actually putting that dye on your hair into something that you can wash out. So a rinse is not going to be as damaging as putting in a permanent dye.
Yeah. So what actually prompted me to record this video is that I have grays right here in this corner specifically, and it bothers me. I told Melissa, I just turned 38 years old and I'm grateful to have life and grateful to see another year, but I'm not grateful for these grays. So I have my hair dyeing right now because I have my retightening appointment in a few hours and I need these grays to be gone. Before most retightenings, I think I actually skipped it last time around. I do dye the perimeter of my hair so I can wash it and have a fresh hair, and Melissa can then do my retightening. So, and you dye.
I was about to say, and I do the same. Mine is just all up in the front. I actually use a shampoo dye is what I use on mine.
And it's permanent. It's considered
permanent. It is. It's considered permanent. It's a permanent shampoo dye that I use.
Yeah. So, I mean, that dyeing, I guess, in that sense is a little bit different than, the bleaching and the dyeing.
Right, when you're having to lift your hair. Because if you're going to lift your hair because you want it to be a lighter color, I would definitely say go seek a professional so that you don't damage your locks.
Yeah.
Because as she stated, we put in too much time and money to just let it just break off.
Right. And if you have a loctician who is worth their salt, they're going to be honest with you and say, yo, I'm not dyeing your hair because I don't dye, like Melissa does.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
And versus her loctician is a licensed cosmetologist and would feel probably completely comfortable dyeing somebody's hair.
And she dyes her hair all the time.
You see, that's the thing. So again, there are ways to do it. You just have to be very strategic, and timing certainly does matter. So,
and I'm also one of those people that when I go and do something, I like to find people who are doing it too. So like we just said how my loctician, she dyes her hair all the time and she has sister locks.
Yes.
So I know that if I ever do choose to go that route, she's done it plenty of times and I would feel safe and trusting her in doing it. And that she could also teach me how to keep my locks.
That part, because we'll talk a little bit about the after maintenance, because that's something to consider as well. When you do dye your hair,
that's the most important.
It becomes a little bit more vulnerable, and it is extremely important, like Melissa said, to care for it properly, to make sure that after the fact they're good, but they want to stay good and they don't fall out on you. So Melissa mentioned that the ideal stage for dyeing your hair is once they are mature, and you get the green light from your loctician, and your loctician will explain what mature is to you. But Melissa, can you just give them a quick overview of what mature versus immature sister lock even means?
So when you initially get your sister locks, you can actually see where the interlocking is happening. It kind of looks like a braid, or if you even start your hair out with braids or twist or whatever, you'll see that. When it starts to mature, it's a casing that starts to cover it. So you'll no longer see that there was interlocked, that it was braided, that it was twisted. And so then you'll know that it's actually starting to mature.
That's such a good visual representation. And let me just walk up to the camera real quick and show them exactly what a mature lock looks like. I'm sure anybody who's watching this probably already knows.
Right.
But you see that casing that she mentioned there? It's like, my hair is interlocked, but you can't tell because it's like hair has kind of gone around the interlocking, or if you have braids, around the braids.
Right.
So definitely, it's going to happen. Like your locks will mature. It just, for some people, depending on your hair type, it can take longer than others.
And usually with those looser, softer hair, it's going to take a lot longer for your hair to mature than those who have a tighter coil.
Like me, my hair matured pretty quickly. Obviously not quickly enough for my impatient self when I wanted to dye them, but still quickly nonetheless. So when they are mature, you will have less raveling. You will have a consistent pattern, and you'll have the firm ends that I just showed you. So you shouldn't dye during the starter phase. We talked about it. You can risk the slippage, which is when your locks come out the way that mine did. You can lose your pattern integrity. So you might have some locks that don't come out, because in the back of mine were fine, but on the perimeter, they all came out. And then having that inconsistent pattern can be kind of annoying, because essentially when she went to fix my mistake, the locks here are going to now start all the way over as baby locks, versus the ones in the back are going to mature quicker because they didn't unravel. So you just want to kind of keep the consistency and keep it even, and just to avoid them unraveling in the first place. So they need to stabilize before you're able to even consider dyeing your hair once you have those locks. But just so for somebody who is keen on doing it themselves, again, Melissa's kind of said go to a professional if you are not. And now again, doing the perimeter, a couple like spot dyeing here is very different than what we're talking about, like a full lift and color.
Right.
But if you're going to do it, It's important to deep clean your hair before you color, but do not condition. Use a clarifying wash or shampoo to remove the buildup, but you want to avoid that conditioner because the dye needs to penetrate evenly, and adding the conditioner can prevent it from doing so. Again, these things I didn't necessarily even know because I'm not a colorist. I'm not a dyer. I don't dye hair. So these are just tips that people who do dye give. But you know, if you kind of go to somebody who knows what they're doing, they're going to know all of this. But just, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this in this video. But strand testing, you also want to do a quick test, maybe in the back in an inconspicuous area, and see if your hair is going to even take to those chemicals, and make sure that your hair is not going to fall out. And it's just always better to do a quick test before you commit to doing your whole head, and then you look up like, oh, my hair actually just all fell out because I was allergic.
I was just like, you might be having an allergic reaction. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you do that strand testing, you are checking your porosity of your locks, and you'll see kind of how
that is.
Oh, okay, yes, porosity. Go ahead. Like, it's kind of just like what it sounds like how well the chemicals can penetrate the shaft of your lock. So somebody who has high porosity, they can penetrate easier, right, Melissa?
Right.
And then somebody with low porosity might need, I don't know, more chemicals or like a longer time for it to cook. Again, somebody who does dye will be able to tell you specifically. But when you do that strand testing, you kind of have an idea of how it's going to look like for the whole head, and how your hair is going to react, more importantly, to that specific chemicals. So, you know, with the tools and products for dyeing your hair, there's professional grade dye versus box dye. So I use the box dye to do my perimeter. She uses a shampoo dye. And then there's like a next level where you have like is it peroxide to lift your hair?
I've tried that before.
Yeah, how was it?
It did it, but I couldn't tell no difference.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember when I told you that I did it. It actually made my hair a brighter brown. And then I didn't really like it because I had dyed this black, and so I was having like a two-tone. So then I went through and took it and dyed my hair all black.
Okay, I actually don't remember that, but
yeah. It brightens your hair. Is all that the peroxide does. It just lifts it.
Okay. I'm surprised you did it on yourself and didn't go to.
I did it. I actually tried it.
So, you know,
I told her I was gonna do it though.
And what did she said it was fine?
Yeah, she told me, tell me how it goes.
Okay. So when you are doing the dyeing, you're going to need your gloves, you're going to need towels, you're going to need a color brush, a mixing bowl. But very importantly, you have to have like protein products to use after coloring your hair, because again, she said it before, the maintenance of the color is the most important thing to prevent the falling out of your locks. So again, you know, similar to how somebody who dyes hair would do on loose natural hair, when you have your locks, you are going to section them into manageable groups, and then you're going to apply the color from root to tip or tip to root, depending on the brand and what the recommendation is specifically. You do want to avoid oversaturation because, again, you're dealing with chemicals, right? And even with my box dye, you can smell the ammonia or whatever chemicals they have, because you know, it needs to actually do the work. So it's not, you have to be very careful, right? You have to follow the instructions closely, and you have to make sure that you're doing it evenly and properly. So you don't put like a large section right here of dye and then a very sparse section here, and then you have mismatched colors on your hair. And the timing of the process is also very important. So if you're meant to have it on for 15 minutes and you forget and go do 45, there's a higher probability that your locks might fall out. So again, that's why having somebody who knows what they're doing, either from certification and experience, or somebody who's just done it on themselves and knows what they're doing from just like years of experience, that is very important even when you have locks. So some common mistakes that people do make, like I said, leaving the dye in for too long, overlapping color on previously dyed ends. So sometimes if you have a color that you love and you want to just like touch up the roots, the area in between the touch up and where the color starts can be very sometimes small. So you might end up overlapping on the section that's already colored, which can be a bad thing because that section will become vulnerable because you're dyeing it every single time. It's meant to be a touch up, not a dye every single time. So again, somebody who knows what they're doing is going to know how to mitigate that problem. And then using a high lift bleach without a professional, yeah, again,
I wouldn't even recommend.
Yeah, that is way out of my purview. Even Melissa, as somebody who is a professional loctician, wouldn't do it.
I'm not a colorist.
Exactly. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, after you do get your locks, now I would say I think I was pretty diligent with the aftercare when I colored my hair all those years ago. But you do want to know how long to wait before your first wash. And then very importantly, you need to know the right shampoos to use. Are you going to use sulfate-free shampoos? Are you going to use the color-safe shampoos? All of these things do matter because, again, longevity of your locks. So the moisture routine for Sisterlocks might change after you dye your hair.
It will.
And you have to be okay with knowing that. Some Sisterlocks purists don't even love using conditioner in their hair, but when you have dye, you might need to start using conditioner in your hair even if you did it beforehand.
That's why I say it's a big difference because our locks are tiny. So we want them to stay dry so they continue to, to lock. But at the same time, once you've dyed your hair, you got to keep moisture. And so you don't lose the lock.
And that is yet another reason why you don't do it before they become mature, because you're definitely not supposed to use conditioners and oils and all these things on locks when they're baby locks or starter locks. So again, if there's anything you take from this video, it's just don't dye your hair too soon. And if you're going to do it, just be very strategic with how you move within that dye world of locks.
Right, because I know some people are like, before they've ever even got locks, they've dyed their own hair at home. But your loose hair is so much different than dealing with your locked hair, especially when you're trying to color it, because you want that even color. And now you got a barrel that you're dealing with and not just a strand of hair.
That is such good advice, because I think we talk so much about how, having Sisterlocks and having that grid pattern gives us the versatility and kind of the effect of loose natural hair. But like Melissa said, there is still a nuanced conversation there. There is still a difference between a barrel of hair versus loose hair. So
a strand
of hair. So if you are somebody who has experience with coloring the way my colorist did, but you don't have experience with locks, then it's different, and be upfront with that and let the person know, like, I've never done this before, but we're gonna try it together, or just don't do it because again, there is a difference. So you definitely want to incorporate lightweight hydration without causing that slippage. And there can be a fine line between that, especially like I said, if your locks are not mature. And then we talked about the protein treatments, but there is also an art to when you are supposed to add these protein treatments and how often. Again, not necessarily something that I can speak to because I'm not a colorist. I don't do hair in that way, but somebody who is trained would be able to help you out in that. So just a quick recap. Number one, dye your Sisterlocks only when they're mature. Okay.
Period.
If there's one thing you take away from this video, it is that. Number two, if and when you do want to dye your hair, just make sure that you prep properly. And very important, number three, follow the aftercare, the right aftercare for your locks to make sure that you maintain the integrity of them. So yeah, I mean, I do believe that locks are beautiful, whether they're colored or not. I believe that it allows us to express ourselves in such a beautiful way. I do believe, as somebody who has had color, that color is just another layer to that, to be able to kind of just really own your Sisterlocks and make them personal to you. So by no means in this video are we discouraging color. We both dye our hair. I've dyed my whole head before, but we just want to make sure that people are doing it responsibly and in such a way that's going to maintain your hair, because we want you to have flourishing locks and to enjoy the process and enjoy your journey. I would encourage any viewers out there who have colored their locks or are thinking about coloring their locks to comment below and let me know if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you have experienced any of the things that we mentioned, i.e. slippage, i.e. having to wait, how long it took for your lock to mature. I try to respond to everybody in the comments and kind of make this an interactive community. And yeah, you can also share your dye results in the comments as well. So I just want to thank you guys all for watching. I want to thank Melissa for being here, a part of this video, and share this with somebody who might find it interesting. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.